India ended its nuclear ambiguity by carrying out a nuclear test on the 11th and 13th of May 1998. Pakistan, which had less nuclear ambiguity, however, followed suit by their own test 15 days later. Taliban during the same time had gained control of Afghanistan, and there were reports that Pakistan was trying to push Talibanese fighters into Kashmir Valley to rake up a sagging militancy. During the same time, the Western powers were now getting apprehensive of India and Pakistan as two nuclear weapon states getting into a conflict. It was against this backdrop that Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee made a bold trip to Lahore during February 1999. The Lahore Declaration gave additional responsibility to both the nuclear weapon powers to stay away from conflict. However, by the first week of May, there were reports of Pakistan-supported jihadi infiltrators in Kargil. By the end of the month, places like Tololing, 0.4875, 0.5140, Tiger Hill, Dras were common household names in India. Today in Samvad, we have a war hero, someone who led his troops, who volunteered to lead his troops into the battle into Kargil, Dras, Mashko. And we are honored to have Lieutenant General Mohinder Puri, former GoC-8 Mountain Division, which fought the largest and the courageous of battles in Kargil. We welcome Lieutenant General Mohinder Puri to Kashi Bandhan Samvad. Welcome to Kashi Bandhan Samvad, sir. The first question, the Lahore visit by Prime Minister Vajpayee had taken place, and India and Pakistan were into confidence building measures. So what political and military goals did Pakistan hope to achieve through its actions in Kargil? And the second part, why did the Pakistani actions caught us by surprise?
Okay, I think that's a good question, Dr. Saab, and thank you for getting me over for this interview. Now, you're very right that when our Prime Minister went to Lahore in February 1999, there was a feeling that peace will finally come into the subcontinent. And so a certain amount of political and military complacency did set in based on this. But that is the second part of the question which I will take on. What is the political aim of Pakistan? When the overtures were made by us to go to Pakistan, the initiative was taken by us, and yet Pakistan stabbed us in the back. So what are the political aims? Basically, I must take you back in time slightly. The situation in Kashmir, in the valley, was improving considerably. We had the militancy under control. The foreign militants were getting eliminated by us. Certain small percentage of the local militants were there, but we could easily take care of them. Generally, the atmosphere was quite peaceful. There were, very rare incidents of or contacts with the militants. Terrorist attacks had reduced considerably, and Pakistan saw this as a failure of their policy in J&K. There was a time when, somewhere in April 99, we were even thinking of de-inducting forces from there into our peace stations, because we felt normalcy is very much returning. So this is what I think Pakistan could not digest, the normalcy which was suddenly erupting in the valley, and his aim was to internationalize the J&K problem. You see, the UN had also gone quiet, the big powers were not talking about J&K, and the world war at large had more or less forgotten about J&K. So to bring it back on stage, I think that was one of the major political aims of Pakistan, and they did achieve that. Because suddenly the two nuclear powers in a confrontation, it did awaken the international community, and it did awaken UN. Large steps were taken to de-escalate the situation. So I think to a large extent Pakistan did succeed in politicizing or bringing the J&K problem into focus again. Now, what is the military aim? The military aim was to change the alignment of the line of control, get areas as much as they could before the ceasefire was declared, or before we became aware that this sort of an intrusion has taken place, and thereafter change the complete dynamics of the line of control, gain substantial territory and firm in over there over the winter season, because after the winter season they would have consolidated and it would have been very difficult for us to evict them. So, these were some of the aims. Another very important aspect, you see, they were also treating this as a launch pad for militancy to get into Himachal Pradesh. So, this was another military aim which, aim plus should I say, of the Pakistanis. Now, what caught us by surprise? Yes. I think that is a very important aspect, because we lost a lot of lives, yes, and it is no secret that it was a failure of intelligence at the national level, at the military level. At the national level, I think the type of intelligence which we should have, there were early indicators. Now, whether the indicators were properly diagnosed, assessed by us and then action taken, but evidently these were ignored or not given due attention to these indicators, both by the polity as well as by the military. So, the intelligence was definitely a very, very big reason for the initial setbacks which we had.
So, once the infiltration was detected by the army, what was the biggest challenge faced by the army, and how was this challenge overcome?
See, I think it was sometimes in early May that through the graziers, the local battalion came to know that some suspicious movement has been seen. Now, this initially we were not very convinced. I think again the military was not very convinced that this could be any intrusion. It must be just a small terrorist camp which is being established, or there are militants who have come over here for some normal terrorist activities. But when that spread was discerned over a frontage of 130 kilometers, then it became a very serious problem. Then we had to realize, we realized that it's not a small intrusion, it is not a terrorist movement, neither it is any militants coming over here. This is a military intrusion with the aim of gaining territory. So, this is how I think we were taken aback, and thereafter the challenges were many. Main challenge was gathering information as to where are these militants, then how to lift 8 Mountain Division, which was in the valley fighting insurgency, how to uplift them. By uplifting them, we would have created a vacuum in the valley which could have been filled up by the militants again. So, how to balance that? Induction of 8 Mountain Divisions, not a small force, on one line of communication, that is the Srinagar-Zojila Leh axis, where civil traffic is moving for the winter stocking, the military traffic is moving for winter stocking, and all these various challenges which we faced, the induction, the logistics, the lack of intelligence, then the terrain itself, which was very demanding. If you ever go that side and you see these heights, you will really be so highly mesmerized by the terrain in that area. You see there are sheer 80-70 degrees gradients with loose earth. That means if you go up 2 steps, you roll down 1 step. So, this scarcity of water, the snow belts, you have to depend on the snow, that wasn't a very heavy snowfall year. So, all these issues were very big challenges for us, and when you're given a task, then you have to achieve it. That's all.
Sir, 8 Mountain Division was in North and Central Kashmir, I believe, in CI Ops. Nature completely shifted from anti-insurgency to a conventional war. So how was that catered to?
See, I think this is again a very nicely asked question. The difference between insurgency and conventional warfare is like chalk and cheese. You see, in insurgency, you're fighting a different battle. You're really fighting the misguided brethren of your country. So you have your one hand tied. You don't know from where the militant is going to appear. He can be, ahead of you, behind you, left, right, everywhere. Whereas in conventional operations, you have an objective, it is well defined, you know what are your resources available, what is the task given to you. So that is now to change the mindset of the soldiers for the division from CI environment, counterinsurgency environment, to real hard conventional operations takes time. So we had to actually, the commanding officers and the brigade commanders had a very difficult time in transforming the people's mindset and their drills from counterinsurgency operation to conventional operations. But we did get some period of time, manage some period of time, and then in which we sort of regrouped ourselves and we again reoriented our drills to meet the requirements of conventional war.
Sir, this should go down in military history because I don't think the 8 Mountain Division had too much time to acclimatize and then get into a different battle zone. Sir, coming back to the whole warfare, sir, the initial days of the conflict saw many number of Veergatis of officers and other ranks. Because we were reading in the newspapers, what exactly was the reason for the heavy number of casualties in the initial phases?
See, initial phases, that's why I mentioned the terrain. Now, these Pakistan army was sitting on dominating heights, and the first row of on the line of their defences was about 7 or 8 kilometers from the line of communication, that is the main road access. They could effectively dominate this road. Now, there was no way for us then to go and assault these heights, and we had to go climb up, and they were sitting on dominating position in high altitude, extreme high altitude. So, firstly, what did we require? We required a very high standard of physical fitness. We had to acclimatize ourselves for the second stage of acclimatization, high altitude. Then we had to, the equipment profile of the division in the CI environment, counterinsurgency environment, was quite different from the conventional. So we had these 10-12 days in which to build up our artillery, our logistics, our ammunition, so that the first objective which we go for, we are adequately prepared for that. The period before induction of my division, actually you can't blame anyone, because you see, they were sitting on heights, and the holding formation at that time, when they tried to eliminate them, they were fired upon and they suffered very heavy casualties. Casualties were suffered also because of lack of acclimatization. Then when my division came in, we also suffered very heavy casualties because we were going uphill climbing, which is very difficult. You can understand in the high altitude where breathing is so difficult, and the soldiers with 25 kgs, 30 kgs of weight on them, assaulting the objective was a very, very difficult task. And so it was very evident that casualties would take place, and we did suffer quite heavy casualties.
So when such casualties happen, obviously the morale of the troops starts suffering. So how does a leader motivate his troops to stay motivated and fight the battle out despite his buddies, getting Veergati?
I think what actually if you see the psyche of the soldier, he is there for a particular mission, for a particular task. He knows that I have to capture that objective, otherwise my name will be blackened, my unit's name will be blackened, and for that I have to capture it. Okay, now in the process many die. Some die, some live, but there are casualties, and everyone, your next door soldier, your buddy, he knows that ये गोली मेरे को भी लग सकती है. So I think, but the success which you get after an operation, that is what makes you forget the casualties which you had. It motivates you, keeps you motivated, because you capture one objective, your morale goes up, the complete unit's morale goes up. And I think the commanding officer and the brigade commander has a big role in motivating these men to go in for the next task, despite the casualties. Casualties are, you have to accept them in war. It does demoralize you, but it's a short-lived demoralization, which is overcome by your success in capturing the objectives.
The ethos of Naam Namak Nishan.
Naam Namak, very important. It's
over everything.
Yes, everything. You see, a soldier is basically from a rural background. He doesn't want to go back to his village and be called a coward. He would rather die than go back to his village and be called a coward. He's got a very strong bond with his unit, with his village, and with his own kith and kin and his own tribe, his own race. So I think it's very important.
So talking of missions, Tololing, 0.5140, 0.4875, Tiger Hill, you saw all this happening before you. I mean, 8 Mountain Division saw all this happening before it. Which was the toughest battle? I mean, it's not fair to compare.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to compare.
There must have been some challenges which one had which the other didn't have. So which was the most challenging of these operations?
I think the first operation is always the most challenging, because you're going into something unknown. You do not know whether you're going to succeed or whether you're going to fail. So on that hinges how you develop the subsequent phases of your operation. So like I mentioned to you, we took about 10-12 days to acclimatize ourselves, build up our logistics, get ready for, reorient our drills and get ready for the first attack, which was slated for 9th, 12th, 13th June. And I gave this task to 2 Rajrif, and with 18 grenadiers and 18 Garhwal in the supporting role. Commanding officer Colonel Ravindranath, he is no more. He expired about 3 years back due to heart issues. Outstanding commanding officer. And when he went for Tololing, which was the first feature, and because this was the feature which was most dominating the line of communication. So we couldn't carry out a winter stalking till this was eliminated, till the road access was opened. So we gave it the highest priority, and we used all our resources. But the battalion did a commendable piece of work. By morning they captured Tololing, and this really changed the complete complexion of the war, and it turned the tide in our favor, should I say, after this. After this, the battles were again very severe. We suffered very heavy casualties, but then we had tasted success, and we went from one ridge to another till we finally captured point 4875.
You call it ridge hopping in your
Yes,
book.
yes.
So coming to recent times, there was a statement by a veteran, I will not be naming people, who basically alluded to the fact that he specifically named Captain Vikram Batra, that he got because his PVC, his gallantry, because of a certain media person. You were recommending these people for gallantry awards, sir. What is your take on this statement?
I think, I know whom you're talking about. He's a well-known person, and he's done a lot of interviews. I think he has also sent a disclaimer. Immediately after that, he says he didn't, it was in the course of conversation, what he was trying to explain was that the media also helps in bringing out the, highlighting the bravery of an officer, which might contribute to the, to his getting the award. But, PVCs are not given out by the media. PVCs is not a PVC, MVC, VRC, these are not awards which you give based on what the media is talking about. I mean, these young officers and men sacrifice their own life, and that is why they get the highest award of the country, the Paramveer Chakra. And Vikram Batra was an outstanding young officer. He captured .5140 with his company. He was, I mean, he just had a couple of years of service, but he had a very focused mind. He knew what he was going into, and thereafter he captured, he was instrumental in the capture of 4875. He sacrificed his life for that. So I don't think the media has got any role in influencing us for giving any awards to these very, very brave hearts.
I asked this question specifically because we as civilians have placed the defense forces on a different pedestals. So when something of this sort comes out, it's better to basically disclaim all this and put out facts in the public domain.
Yes.
So one final question. General Wayne Malik, during his time when he was the COS, he writes in his book also that basically the war was fought with what we had. We will fight the war with whatever we have. Then there were Kargil Committee recommendations, nearly 23, 24 years since then. And we are fighting, we are in the sort of process of fighting another battle in nearly the same terrain, sir. Have things really changed since then, or remain the same?
What General Malik said was very true at that point of time. But 23 years have passed. Our way of looking at the military threats has also changed. And I think we are more practical today. We've got adequate resources to meet the challenges, present day challenges. So a lot of work has been done, a lot of development has taken place, a lot of induction of weapons, modern weapons has been done. So I don't think that time we were short of resources, we were taken by supplies. Here is gradually we are facing an enemy in Ladakh. So we've got the wherewithal today. We've developed our own, and this Atam Nirbhar and this exercise which is going on. I'm sure we are in a much better state than what we were in '99.
I'm sure we are in safe hands, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It's been an honor speaking to a war hero like you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.